Welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara. I'm here to welcome you into the world of orgasmic living by hosting experts to discuss orgasmic topics such as nutrition, spirituality, personal development, sexuality, and much more. Here, we will offer lifestyle lessons that can help you lead a fulfilling, joyous, and orgasmic lifestyle. I'm your guide, Venus O'Hara. Welcome to the third episode of the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara. In episode 3, we'll be interviewing Dr. Joel Furhman, who will be sharing his expertise on nutrition and longevity. Then I'll be reviewing the book I'm reading now, which is Open Her by Karen Brody. And finally, we'll be experiencing a guided meditation using health affirmations. But first, let me tell you about my own journey from fussy eater to foodie. Let's talk about food. Just thinking of food makes me salivate. I absolutely love eating. I am definitely a foodie, and I would define my current diet as a whole foods, plant-based vegan diet. I love my foods. I also eat everything organic as much as I can, and I absolutely love the taste of organic food, locally sourced organic food. There's just nothing like it, and I really do spend a lot of money on food. But it wasn't always that way. When I was a child, I was a very fussy eater. My parents did not know what to do with me because meal times were always very complicated in my house because I just refused to eat. So my parents were very worried about me naturally. I grew up in an Irish home, so we had potatoes every single day, either mashed potatoes, boiled potatoes, roast potatoes, not very often fried potatoes. I did love chips or French fries, as they are called in some parts of the world. And I loved to have them swimming in malt vinegar. Oh my God, I still do. But that was a treat maybe once a week. So I was very fussy for most of my childhood and having potatoes every single day. But I always used to leave the meat on the side of my plate. I thought it was disgusting. The taste was just, awful. And I just didn't like it, basically. And I remember when I was 12, one of my friends invited me to her house for tea. That's what we call it where I'm from, or dinner in most parts of the world. And I asked her what we would be having. And she said, pasta shells. And I said, pasta shells, but with potatoes. And she said, no, we're not going to have potatoes. We're only going to have pasta shells. So I was very confused. Anyway, when I went to her house, she gave me a plate of pasta shells and some tomato sauce. And I looked at it and I thought, I'd never seen anything like it before. I took a mouthful of these pasta shells and the texture was so weird to me. It was like plastic in my mouth. And I wasn't very adventurous with trying new food, so I just ended up not really eating any of it. I tried a couple of bites just to be polite as I'd been invited there, but I just couldn't do it. And everyone was laughing at me, actually. All her brothers and sisters were just laughing at me because I was the potato girl. But then a few years later, I discovered pizza, and that really opened me up to different vegetables. I found that making a margarita pizza and adding any vegetable to it would suddenly make the vegetable taste nicer. And I absolutely opened my mind to vegetables. I got to a point where I liked all vegetables, so it was absolutely fantastic. And also, just being able to enjoy pizza meant that I could eat out. There was a lot more flexibility for eating out in restaurants because there was always pizza. And I even kind of started eating pasta as well sometimes, but it never really was my favorite dish, to be honest. When I left home at 18, I became a vegetarian, an ovo-lacto vegetarian. I'd never really eaten meat, to be honest. I've never tried fish in my life. I always thought the smell was so disgusting. I couldn't believe how people could actually put something that smells so bad in their mouth. And I never ate beef. I had chicken a few times. And what else? I liked ham sometimes, though, but it wasn't something that I had very often. But mostly it was beans and potatoes and pizza and salads for me. And also something I did like about being vegetarian is that when I was invited to some people's houses, when I had a bit more variety going on in my diet, I often got very special treatment, and people would ask me what I ate just so that they would prepare something special for me. And that was much better than just going along and just eating some random food that you don't know what it is going to be. So I did like that because I was never very, very adventurous. So for me, being a vegetarian or ovo-lacto vegetarian was simply a socially acceptable way of being a fussy eater. I just couldn't imagine, cutting up meat and stuffing meat and all of those things that you do with meat. I've never done that myself. I just thought, oh my God, cringe. So I wasn't really an ethical vegetarian by any means. I didn't really care about the animals, to be honest, which is something which is a bit strange to say that now. I don't feel the same way about it now. But even when I first moved to Spain, I used to think I actually worked next to one of the most famous bull rings in Spain. And I did actually want to go and see a bullfight. I was curious about it. I'm so glad I didn't now, though. But I did change my perspective a lot when I became vegan about animal ethics, etc. But when I was vegetarian, I didn't care. I even wore fur. For me, it was just about not liking the animals. Never really been a fan of pets either. I always used to feel quite scared of dogs. So it was never about animals. I just didn't really care much for them in any way. But then when I lived abroad as well, coming to Spain, and also before I lived in Spain, I lived in France. And those experiences really opened me up to different foods from different cultures. And I became actually a lot less fussy as long as it was vegetarian. So that was a really great experience. And also that meant that I was more flexible and I started to enjoy things a lot more. So that was fantastic. But also when I first came to Spain and when I was in France, being vegetarian was quite exotic. People used to think I was crazy. I remember living in France, there was this butcher's by the place I worked, and on every Monday they would have a whole cow's head peeled in the shop window. And it was just, I used to walk past and think, don't look. And I just couldn't resist. And I just looked and I thought, oh my God, I couldn't imagine putting something like that in the oven and then taking it out and serving it. It just seemed like really disgusting to me. And I used to talk about this to my colleagues at work, and they were just all laughing at me because I was the weird one, it seemed. But I always believed that I was the normal one and everyone else was strange. Eating meat just seemed very strange to me. 6 years ago, I started to discover, it was quite unintentional really. I was looking for some content about how to lose belly fat, and I came across some vegan YouTubers, and I started to get very curious about the content they were sharing, and I started to learn a lot more about nutrition. And it got to the point where I couldn't really justify eating dairy anymore. I didn't really eat that many eggs. I had eggs as an ingredient. I did love my cheese though, and pizza was my favorite dish for so many years. And I couldn't imagine going vegan full time, but a lot of what they were saying was actually resonating with me. I did think that milk was disgusting and eggs were disgusting, and I started to realize that maybe it wasn't as healthy as people had said in the past. Or I believed them to be. So gradually, I started to eliminate animal products from my diet. And it did take a long time because I did love my cheese. And I also used to love red velvet cake. And also it's always been, eating this way has always been a bit antisocial. Whenever I had a boyfriend, they had to look for restaurants that had vegetarian dishes for me. I remember once I went on a date with a guy who wasn't a vegetarian. Well, most guys have never been with a vegetarian guy, to be honest. And we were looking at different menus of restaurants outside them. I was like, no, can't eat here, can't eat here, can't eat here. And it just seemed like if you wanted to impress someone in that situation, you just come across as like such a fussy person. But fortunately, things have improved a lot now in just the space of maybe 5 or 6 years. So for me, I started to actually eliminate these foods gradually, and I got to a point where I became a full vegan 3 years ago. And I did that because someone in my family had a heart attack, and that was really the for me it was the trigger to actually stop eating any animal products altogether. I thought I don't want to have, I don't want to be eating any cholesterol, and it just seemed to make sense. And I've never really looked back. I've never gone back to eating any animal products. And I also joined a group in Barcelona called Barcelona Vegan Community. And it was incredible to actually meet with like-minded people, because often being plant-based or vegan can seem very antisocial, when in fact making it a central part of my social life has been amazing, because I've actually really enjoyed eating with these people on a weekly basis. We used to meet at different restaurants every single week, and we know all of the vegan plant-based restaurants in Barcelona, and it's been absolutely amazing. And also organizing potlucks, picnics, etc., and also sharing lots of information and recipes has just been amazing. So for me now, I don't really consider myself to be a fussy eater. I will eat anything as long as it's plant-based. But eating at home is always I do actually make my own food, and I really do enjoy preparing it. And just over the pandemic, I started to actually spend more money on food, and I went organic. I know some people say that you don't need to go organic for certain vitamins, etc. But for me, the taste is just amazing. And I'm eating a whole foods plant-based diet that's organic and locally sourced. So I'm just having foods that just taste incredible. And also something I love about organic food is that some vegetables that seem to be okay before this happened, or I started doing or having organic food, that just have a new taste. For example, red peppers, the ones I'm getting are just like, oh my God, I can't even describe them. Or portobello mushrooms, or I don't know, all the fruits I'm having, the taste is just absolutely exquisite, and everything's in season as well. So it's just amazing. So that's all well and good. But recently, a few months ago, I was actually in hospital with pneumonia and suspected COVID, etc. And I was quite ill for some time. And the doctor said to me, "It's because you're vegan. You've got anemia as well." And I thought I was on a mission really to prove them wrong, and to try and get my blood work in a perfect shape so that I could, I really do believe in veganism and plant-based diets, but I know that a lot of the medical community doesn't feel the same way. So I had it was quite a battle for me to be recovering from anemia in a situation where people were kind of looking down at me, saying it's because I was vegan. But anyway, I came out of hospital on the 22nd of February this year, just about 4 or 5 months ago, and I was kind of on a mission just to get my iron levels back to a healthy reading, which I managed to do with nutrition. But as I was doing that, I also actually ended up gaining a bit of weight, not just because I was eating a little bit more, but also I was not very active, because pneumonia is so tiring. Anyone who's been through it knows that it does take a long time until you are back on your feet. And I was just going to the supermarket was a big deal for me. So it did take me a long time to actually get my strength back. And I've actually put on 8 kilos. So I've got this big challenge now to actually get fit again. And I'm back at the gym. And I have to keep strong, but I want to actually lose some weight. And I've never ever done a diet in my life, even though some people do consider a vegan diet to be a diet, but I never have. I've never counted calories or anything like that. But now I'm actually really looking at everything I'm eating. I've downloaded the app Chronometer, which is an app that you can track all your nutrition. You can track your minerals and vitamins and macronutrient ratios, if you're into that, and calories and how much you're burning. And so I'm getting very interested about the nutrition I am having and how good it is for me. And for example, if by lunchtime, if I see that I need some more vitamin E that day or whatever it is, then I'll make sure that my dinner contains something with that vitamin so that I can actually get some balance. And I'm actually really enjoying it, because I do enjoy just analyzing food And recently I read the book Eat to Live by Dr. Joel Furhman, who is going to be featuring on this podcast in a few minutes. I'm going to be interviewing him, and it really opened my eyes to the dangers, or I don't know if that's the right word, of actually oil. I've been obviously living in Spain, so olive oil is something that's considered to be very healthy here. And I've just had my eyes opened, and I've had this massive realization that I should not be eating olive oil. So I've actually eliminated that now from my diet, and I'm discovering new salad dressings, and it's really interesting. And I've also started to supersize all of my salads, which is quite cool, because I think of the word diet and I think restriction, whereas the way I'm eating now is really pure abundance, because I'm eating things that I didn't even know existed when I was a child, or when I was vegetarian. So I'm on a kind of a journey now to be healthy and fit and strong and lose a few pounds. So that is my current journey with food, and also about the ethical part. It's interesting because when I became vegan, I did become more connected to the ethical side of it. But although it wasn't the reason why I went vegan, I couldn't imagine, going vegan because of the planet, even though I do admire people who do it for that reason, or even for watching, slaughterhouse videos, which are absolutely shocking. And they actually make me cry now. I do have a kind of a better or a bigger connection with animals these days, and way more and absolute respect for them. And so those things do make me cry, but still food is something that's so strong, and the desire for food, and it's also part of culture. It's very, very difficult to give up. And I can understand that for some people. So for me, I'm just so happy that I fully enjoy the way I'm eating. I couldn't imagine eating anything else, to be honest. So for me, there is no sacrifice. But I can understand for some people who are doing it for ethics, they might still, at the back of their mind, still enjoy the taste of meat, and maybe those kind of like vegan junk foods, or can be good for them. But I never liked that kind of thing. I could never eat something like Beyond Burger or any type of product that's trying to imitate meat. I just think, oh my God, I can't eat that. I'm a quinoa and salad person, really, and beans and lentils, and there's just so many things, and sprouts. In fact, as long as it's a plant, I will eat it, and that's how I feel about plants these days. I'm really salivating now just thinking about food. Now it's time for this episode's interview. I'm going to be speaking to New York Times bestselling author, Dr. Joel Furhman. Dr. Joel Furhman, welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. Thank you so much for taking part in this interview today.
My pleasure.
And I've just finished reading your best-selling book, Eat to Live, and you've convinced me to give up olive oil and to start eating more nutrient-dense foods. And giving up olive oil is a really big deal, because I live here in Spain, and I've been having cold-pressed, extra virgin olive oil, and people think it's very healthy, but apparently it's not. Would you like to tell us why?
Well, if you don't mind, my book, Eat to Live, was written in 2004 and revised in 2011. But my latest book, the most updated book, is Eat for Life. It's my new version of that. But still, it's fantastic. You're reading that was my very best-selling book, of all times. I advocate a nutritarian diet. That's a diet rich in plant-derived nutrients that have phytochemicals and antioxidants to slow aging and to prevent chronic disease, because the major causes of death are heart attacks, strokes, and cancers. And I see those diseases as being totally preventable and the result of lifestyle and environmental challenges. And if we eat super healthily, our body is really protected against those diseases. Now, not only eating a diet rich in nutrients, but also having a thin body, because fat on the body sequesters nutrients away from the other cells, but fat on the body becomes a storage depot for toxic waste products. Yeah, so I was saying a nutritarian diet is not about just being rich in nutrients. We also have to be moderately calorically restricted to make sure we're a favorable weight. Not too thin, not too heavy. We have to be a perfect weight, be muscular and strong, but not extra fat. And if you're pouring oil on your food, it's fat. It's not just that it's fat, it's 120 calories a tablespoon. And it's fine for a person who's a professional athlete or a laborer in a field behind a plow 8 hours a day, burning off 3,000, 4,000 calories a day to throw an extra 1,000 calories or 500 calories on their food each day. But for most people working on desk jobs, it keeps them fat. Now, fat cells don't just sequester nutrients and hold on to toxins. They're pro-inflammatory tissue. Fat cells don't get a great blood supply. So they spew out reactive oxygen species, creating an inflammatory state in the body. And that's why people who are overweight are higher risk of dying of infectious deaths, like COVID death. And they're higher rate of cancer. Fat cells also make you insulin resistant. And the hallmark of a short lifespan is a person who's insulin resistant and they have higher circulating glucose all through life. All the centenarians, all long-lived people, are insulin sensitive, and their glucose levels run particularly low. So we're saying now that oil, it promotes the inflammatory compounds, the cytokines, the lipokines, suppress the immune system, make you more prone for cancer. And fat on the body also activates aromatase, which makes you higher levels of estrogen, increasing risk of breast and prostate cancer. And when I'm saying oil, all types of oil, is a major contributory to this pro-inflammatory, cancer-prone state because it keeps people overweight. And you can't lose weight if you're pouring oil on your food. It's so rapidly absorbed. It's an appetite stimulant. And about 90% of the population in the modern world in Western and industrialized countries have too much fat on their body for optimal health. So if you're slim, and the other issue is that there's a comparison between eating fat from nuts and seeds, avocados and olives, or eating fat from the walnut oil, the sesame oil, the soybean oil, the sunflower oil, the olive oil. And we know that when people switch from oil to the whole food, the risk of cardiovascular death goes down by 40%. So we're talking here about even the Prevamid study. So when people switch from oil to nuts and seeds, they got dramatically reduced risk of heart attacks occurrences. So we're talking here that it's always the whole food that's better than the fragmented food. It's an apple, not apple juice. Mm-hmm. It's a avocado, not avocado oil. It's sesame seeds, not sesame seeds oil. If you want to maximize lifespan, there's so many benefits you get from eating the whole nut or seed that are not found in the oil from that nut or seed.
I gave up oil on Saturday, so I'm on day 4. And what I loved about your book, another thing, is the advice or the recommendation just to make big salads. So I've been supersizing my salads, and I'm now on a journey of making my own oil-free salad dressings. So that's very interesting for me. I'm finding lots of recipes online. So it's a very interesting journey.
Yeah, and I have over 2,000 recipes on my website, and we're teaching people how to make delicious salad dressings and sauces made from blending a little bit of nut or seed. Like, for example, I'll make an orange sesame dressing with cashews, raw sesame seeds, which I toast a little bit, some couple of navel oranges, a squeeze of lemon, and a little vinegar like apple cider vinegar or blood orange vinegar whipped up, making a delicious dressing. Or I'll make a tomato-based dressing with like thickened tomato sauce with almond butter and balsamic vinegar and a couple of currants and some roasted garlic, and making incredible dressings with whole foods instead of making unhealthy dressings that have just oil and vinegar, which is just empty calories. So that's fun. We make great desserts. Like we make like a bean brownie with a little bit of, with beans and almond butter, a little bit of a chocolate icing made out of avocado and tofu with cocoa powder and a few dates. So we're making delicious food, but we're doing the whole foods. We're not using sugar. We're sweetening with a date. We're not using oil. We're using sesame seeds and cashews. We're not using, so it's really a fun and delicious way to cook, but we're finding that it wipes out people's diabetes, or they lose weight, they live longer, they don't get cancer, their heart disease melts away. It's really the dietary portfolio that enables people to age slower and live longer also can be effective therapeutically to reverse disease, so people can get off their medications and not be taking drugs all the time.
It sounds delicious. I'm definitely going to check them out because I've been experimenting with cashews and I've got too much water in ones. It's all a bit of a journey just to try and get the right ones. And it's delicious so far. And it's really interesting because I'm hoping what's going to happen is a few months down the line or weeks, I'm going to be like, ooh, oil, that's disgusting. you know,
Have you seen my Eat to Live cookbook?
I've
Because
seen your website, so I'm very tempted to join now. I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot of delicious salad dressings on there because I'm a real salad person anyway. I do eat a whole foods, plant-based, organic, locally produced
oh wow, that's great.
diet anyway. I haven't eaten meat for 25 years, so I'm whole foods, plant-based. And so I'm really excited about this, making my salads a lot bigger. I was having them on a normal plate now, and now they're really big.
9-inch bowl, because not a soup bowl, not a 6-inch soup bowl.
No.
A 9-inch serving
like a mixing bowl. I'm using a mixing bowl.
Right, exactly. You want people to have at least one big salad a day.
Yeah, my greengrocer's going to love me now because I'm going to be eating a lot more fresh stuff there. And on the topic of weight loss, a lot of people have gained weight during the pandemic, myself included. And even though I eat very healthily, but oil, obviously, you can understand why. But I've actually gained 7 kilos. I've never been this big in my life. And I'm just like, oh my God. So what advice would you give to anyone who has an extra layer of pandemic fat?
Well, they're not going to lose weight if they don't get the oil out of their diet. It's this. Mm-hmm. They've been so misled and thinking that oil is healthy for them that it's just that they're not as active. They gain weight, and you're not going to lose weight pouring oil on your food. So it's really sugar, salt, and oil. It's the sweeteners. You know, even when we make a dessert, we don't put more than 1 middle date per person for dessert at night to sweeten it. And a lot of the desserts are just frozen fruit, like frozen cherries that we use part of a frozen jackfruit, or frozen mango, or for fresh. It's not all of it's fruit. So maybe once or twice a week, we might make a fancier dessert. We'd make an ice cream, like a chocolate ice cream with cocoa powder, a date in it, or a brownie, or some kind of fancier or a tiramisu with agar. Agar, we make some fancy desserts a few times a week, but mostly it's fresh fruit. And people should be losing 1 kilo a week. And I say, if you're not losing, if you're overweight and not losing 1 kilogram a week, then you're not following this program. A nutritarian diet affords people that opportunity to lose a half a kilo every 3 days. And if they're not doing that, they're not doing it right. And it doesn't matter how much exercise they do. Because even if they don't exercise, they're still going to lose the weight. Because the food is very filling. It doesn't have any extra sweeteners or oils in it. And you don't have to eat thimble-sized portions of food. You get to eat liberal amounts of delicious tasting food, and people find they are satisfied with less calories and they lose weight.
I'm excited. I'm on week 15 at the gym now, and I haven't actually lost any weight. So hopefully with this, the combination of massive salads and your plan and the exercise.
And then when you're using nuts and seeds, only use a half an ounce per meal. Mm-hmm. So you have a total of 1.5 ounces a day. Don't overdo the nuts, because that also could produce too much fat calories. But I can eat more than 1.5 ounces of nuts a day because I'm not looking to lose weight. But for a person looking to lose weight, they should go 0.5 ounce per meal. So that's the one thing they're measuring, where the vegetables and the other things they can eat more liberally as much as they want.
It's always easier to prepare food at home, obviously, because you know how much you're having. But what about when you are eating out or at a friend's place or at a restaurant? What do you think about cheat days?
Well, most people are overweight because they've developed an addictive relationship with food. And the foods that drive them to overeat are the foods that aren't healthy for them to begin with. If they stay away from salt, the salt drives them, their salt craving, their sugar craving, their oil or fat craving. And the cheat days reinforce their cravings and the addictions. It's like bringing an alcoholic to a bar once a week. Instead of getting over the cravings and having them fade into the past and no longer desire those foods, by having a cheat day, they constantly throw those foods in their face and make them always thinking about them, always wanting them more. And they never cross the line between preferring this way of eating over their old diet. I wouldn't consider a cheat day for myself because I don't like those things you'd be cheating on or a person's been cheating on. They don't have any appeal to me because I'd prefer the taste of my food better. I'd rather have my ice cream with the frozen banana, the macadamia nuts, and the real vanilla bean powder, real food, compared to the stuff that's overly sweetened. I can taste the chemicals and bleach in it. This doesn't. But if I kept eating that heavily sweetened stuff, I would never appreciate the unsweetened, the lower sugar version of just the bananas with the macadamia nuts and the real vanilla bean powder. Wouldn't have much appeal to me. So what I'm saying is, like, here, like, for example, we have this retreat in San Diego where people come from all over the world to get rid of food addiction and to lose weight. And they stay here for 2 to 3 months. And when they leave, they don't desire those cravings anymore. And they're abstaining from those foods long enough period of time where they're not caught, they're not in, have this love affair with those foods, wanting them so much. And their taste buds get stronger and change. So they prefer to have foods that are not so heavily sweetened and heavily flavored and heavily greasy and so greasy. So they prefer this way of eating after a while. And it enables them to stay on the plan for the rest of their life and get maximum enjoyment from it. When you have one foot in both worlds, you never really your taste doesn't change all the way, and you don't really love eating this way. I want people to prefer eating this way. This is the way they desire to eat. They'd rather eat this way than to eat the stuff that they used to like.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult. But here in Barcelona, there's a massive vegan movement. There are lots of organic restaurants. But even if you go to a healthy restaurant, there's going to be olive oil and salt and all of those things. So if it's a predominantly healthy restaurant with just a bit of oil and salt, would that be okay for one meal, or is it going to be?
It depends on the person, because for you or me, I can do that because I can eat one meal that has some oil and salt in it, and I would not want that again, and I would stay away from it for the next couple of weeks. It wouldn't make me into an addict, but for some people, having the oil and salt could throw them off their diet for the whole week, and they keep wanting more. It makes them want more of it. So it depends on the individual. The more you're a food addict, the more you have to stay away from those foods. If you're not a food addict and you can stay eating healthy the whole month and go out and have that once a month or so, and it doesn't make you want to have more of it, then it's no problem. It's like saying, well, if I smoked a cigarette, one night in a month, it wouldn't have any negative effect on me, except if I was an addict and made me want to smoke more cigarettes, then it would have a negative effect. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And on the topic of, let's talk about diet and longevity. So what do you think are the best foods to keep us young?
Well, here, I want people to memorize these 5 words and write them down.
Okay.
Because the most proven methodology to extend the human lifespan is moderate caloric restriction in the context of micronutrient excellence. So those are the 5 words: moderate caloric restriction, micronutrient excellence. And I'm saying when we have the micronutrient exposure to the full symphony of nutrients humans require, then it naturally suppresses our appetite, and we feel satisfied with the right amount of calories, and we no longer desire to overeat. So we have to be well nourished without taking an excess of calories. Now, the foods that consistently show in the scientific literature the most protection against later life cancers and premature aging, I give that acronym GBOMBS, GBOMBS, which stands for greens, beans or legumes, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. Greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds. So the greens, of course, are the salad, but also broccoli and artichokes and asparagus and string beans and zucchini, all the green foods. And number 2, the beans include lentils and split peas and zucchini beans and soybeans, all the beans family, legume family. And then onions, scallions, garlic, different types of berries and low sugar fruits, and seeds like flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, which have dramatic anti-cancer effects. So GBOM. So I want people to eat the salad, for example, and put some cruciferous greens on top, like bok choy, kale, collards, arugula. Put some green, and then put a nut and seed-based dressing with some scallion or onion in there too.
I did that today.
You did that today?
Yeah, with my big baker's bowl. So I'm quite proud of myself. Definitely following your tips today. Definitely.
Great.
And another thing about, speaking of aging, we produce less collagen and our skin loses elasticity as we age. And there are many supplements that contain animal collagen. There are people who think that you need to consume collagen to produce your own collagen. What do you think about that? Obviously, on a plant-based diet, we're not consuming animal collagen, and people have this perception that vegans are going to lose elasticity or something. What do you say to that?
It's marketing. It's really not. Yeah. This is not proven scientific data to show that keeps people longer. We're talking about anti-aging phenomenon here, And the key here is and one of the secrets, and we could say the most foundational science that shows the anti-aging effects, is eating less animal protein and eating more plant protein. It's not just get rid of the animal protein, moving vegan. It's not cutting back on animal products, eating more bread and pasta and potato and rice and fruit. No, it's actually eating more high protein plant foods that maintain your bones, your collagen, and the anti-aging effects, and keep the IGF-1 not too high and not excessively low. And we're talking about high protein plants like hemp seeds, broccoli florets, lentils, soybeans. We're talking here quinoa. We're talking here about almonds, pumpkin seeds. We're talking about all these protein-rich plant foods, including the soybean, including edamame, dried soybeans that you soak and make into soups and chilies, and even tempeh have dramatic effects. Contrary to what people hear on the internet, there's dramatic benefits to eating some anti-estrogenic effects on breast tissue and prostate tissue, and anti-aging effects from eating some whole soybean in the form of edamame or dried soybeans that you make into a dish on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of split ideas about soya. I think people don't know if it's good or bad. I think it creates a lot of confusion, I think.
Yeah, there's been a lot of backlash and a lot of billions of dollars spent to bash the plant-based movement for the meat and dairy industry. And they've used a lot of soy bashing because isolated soy protein and processed foods made from soy can have negative effects and raise IGF-1 almost to the same degree as meat does. So we're not saying to use, we don't want people to eat potato chips instead of a potato. We're not having soy fake foods, but the real soybean, the studies on the real soybean and using that as part of your meals show powerful anti-cancer, longevity promoting effects, and the data is consistent. Shouldn't be controversial. The studies have an overwhelming amount of evidence that these are lifespan enhancing foods.
Are there any foods you would recommend to prevent, let's say, the aches and pains and stiffness that's associated with aging?
Well, there's not one dietary portfolio that's going to prevent cancer, and another dietary portfolio that prevents dementia, and another dietary portfolio that protects against heart disease. Or, we're talking about the same ideal longevity promoting dietary portfolio that contains these categories of foods, protects against all chronic diseases and all forms of aging, including macular degeneration and skin premature aging and osteoarthritis of your joints and collagen and cartilage destruction. It's the same program that has these beneficial effects on tissues. Now, some people, of course, they could be at high risk of, let's say, osteoarthritis or wear and tear of the meniscal cartilage in their knees because they pronate and they're walking improperly, their feet are out of alignment, and sometimes proper posture, the right orthotic, holding their, as we're talking about having proper body alignment to reduce wear and tear on certain joints. It's not 100% dietary related. Sometimes it's structurally related, but basically it's 90% of the time people are just aging prematurely because they're eating improperly and their whole body ages simultaneously. Their cartilage ages, their collagen ages, when their heart is aging and when their brain is shrinking, they're aging the whole body simultaneously.
Okay, going back to what I read in your book, Eat to Live, some of your recommendations are very different from the ones published by governmental authorities on nutrition. For example, the pyramid you showed was the emphasis on grains. So obviously you say that we should have more greens. That should be the basis of our nutrition.
Well, in making a pyramid where the base of the pyramid is what you're trying to eat more of, my base is made of vegetables, not grains or not greens. The base is all different types of vegetables. Vegetables should be the base of your pyramid. And you can eat some whole grains and fruits and beans and nuts, but we're trying to eat a lot of bulk in our diet from vegetables. And that includes, vegetables of different colors, squashes and turnips and carrots and beets and, and zucchini and different types of pumpkin and squash and greens and peas. And so the base of your pyramid should be vegetables. And we're trying to eat between a half an ounce to an ounce of nuts with each meal and about a half a cup to a cup of beans each day, and then about 3 to 5 fresh fruits a day. So we're trying to eat a diet with a sensible variety of foods, because each one of these foods has power to extend lifespan and prevent cancer, but they work synergistically. When you have the greens, there's a tremendous powerful to suppress genetic defects. But when you add greens and mushrooms together, it adds more anti-angiogenic power to prevent cells from replicating. And if we add the mushrooms to the greens and the onions too, the greens, the mushrooms, and the onions together, then you get the most powerful effects and the most favorable effects on the microbiome, the right bacteria in the gut, thickening of the biofilm, so it keeps glucose low from foods coming in. So it's the whole pattern of foods that interact with the human body. And even the ergothioneine on mushrooms that stabilize cells in the body and prevent aging of organelles. And it's a product found mostly in mushrooms that the body utilizes to slow the aging process.
So if you're preparing, let's say, a plate of food, because I've heard in the past from different recommendations that half of it should be grains, a quarter protein, and a quarter veg. What would your plate ratio be like? I mean, that wouldn't be half of grains. That'd be way too much, of course. What would be the percentage then?
Right. Like, we want people not to use grains. Vegetables should be the major source of their calories and their bulk on their plate. The grains, people shouldn't be eating more than 1 cup of grains a day. So most of us eat less than that. Most of us eat like a half a cup of grain, oats or quinoa or something like that. And we're eating more beans as a source of the starch. Beans in the soup, beans in the chili, beans in the burger, beans in the wok vegetable dish. We're using beans on the salad. So we're using more beans than we are using whole grains. So I'd say if you're a big appetite, it might be a cup of beans and a cup of grain in a day. But if you have a lower appetite, you'd be probably cutting back more on the grain, not going more than half a cup of grain, and being between so you would cut a half a cup of beans and half a cup of grain, or a cup of beans and no grain, or a quarter cup of grain and 3/4 cup of beans. Your carbohydrate would be some ratio there, where you certainly want to eat more grain than bean. You would want to eat more bean than grain.
Speaking of ratios, what do you think about macronutrient ratios? Is there an ideal, or is it just like, would it occur naturally when you are eating this way based on greens?
Well, we have a high micronutrient per calorie. So we're eating a huge amount of micronutrients.
Sorry, I meant my mistake. Macronutrient ratio. The macronutrient ratio of proteins and carbs and fats.
Right. Well, the key here is remembering that animal protein drives aging and drives IGF-1 too high and drives cancer. So the ratio is we want to keep animal protein down, but we still want to have adequate fat and adequate protein in our diet. So there are some vegan advocates and people who promote plant-based diets that get people afraid to eat fat, and they want to keep the fat content below 10% of calories. And I think there's overwhelming amount of evidence at this point that's almost irrefutable that diets that low in fat are not lifespan favorable compared to diets that include more nuts and seeds, where the fat content is up between 15 and 25%, not below 10%. So trying to avoid all fat, including avoiding nuts and seeds, is not lifespan favorable. And the other problem is the risk of dementia and cognitive impairment and brain shrinkage with aging from people not getting enough of the beneficial omega-3 fatty acids in their brain that come from DHA and EPA. So there's a problem with the vegan diet, and that is some people need a lot more B12, and B12 deficiency could be a problem. But not only B12 deficiency, the other serious problem is DHA deficiency for the brain. So what I'm saying right now is that it's important for some people to supplement with a DHA EPA source, and they make vegan EPA and DHA made from algae. And if they're not supplementing, to at least check their blood for omega-3 index to make sure their omega-3 index is above 5, to assure they're not going to get brain shrinkage with aging. Because we're talking about longevity and living a long time. There's no good in living a long time if you don't have your mental faculties intact. And being on a vegan diet could put you into a risky state of, even though you're living longer, you could be demented living longer if you don't get those essential fats to support the brain health.
Speaking of supplements, earlier this year, unfortunately, I was admitted to hospital with pneumonia. And as I was there, it was quite serious. And they said, and you're anemic, it's because you're vegan. And I was like, no, it's not. But anyway, I was on a personal mission when I left the hospital to kind of really focus on iron and everything. And I got some more blood tests about 3 months after being in hospital, and everything was perfect, even the omegas and everything, and B12. And I found that I actually had vitamin D deficiency. It was quite serious. It was 5. I think it's below 20 or something is a deficiency. And I was looking into it, and I just think that people don't talk about this enough. People talk about B12 in the vegan community, and there is a perception that that's all you need, to replace animals, so to speak. But I was really thinking about, what do you think about vitamin D supplementation, and also K2 and iodine, because those are things that are not very abundant in a plant-based diet.
Absolutely. And, but just as many people eating animal products are deficient in vitamin D too, because it's the sunshine vitamin, so it has nothing to do with being a vegan, but absolutely we need to check that and make sure we have adequate vitamin D. And by getting exposure to the sun, you could be damaging your skin, an increasing risk of skin aging, wrinkling, solar lenticels, and even skin cancer. So we have to be careful not to overdo sun, and use a blood test to monitor our vitamin D levels to make sure we're in that most favorable range, not too little and not too much. To use vitamin, a little bit of sun appropriately and some vitamin D to make sure you're right in that level. And you're right, the supplements I recommend for healthy plant-based eater do not have folic acid and vitamin A and beta carotene in them. Because that's the danger, is that people take conventional vitamins to get their zinc, iodine, K2, B12, and vitamin D. And in doing so, they're exposing themselves to ingredients that are dangerous, like vitamin A, beta carotene, folate, folic acid, which is not the same as folate in real food, folic acid, and vitamin E fragments, which people don't need when they eat healthy. So we want to give people, yes, what those things that the vegan diet could be low in, which you said are zinc, K2, iodine, vitamin D, B12, and I'm saying DHA, but not give them things that can you take them cheap vitamins that can hurt people.
Absolutely. I've been there ever since I came out of hospital, and I'm on this mission to kind of be cured by my diet. I've been following my nutrition on Chronometer, which has been very interesting. And almost every day I'm a bit low on calcium, even though I'm trying to have all the things like almonds and broccoli and even some plant-based milk, which has got some calcium in it, been fortified, but that's quite difficult. But it's very interesting to see also the oil, how much it's always been around 35% oil, nearly 60, 70 grams per day. And I think I read that in your book that you would consider that to be a high-fat diet, 70 grams a day.
Just think of the amount you're diluting your nutrients when you have foods that have no calcium, when you have so many calories that have no calcium and no magnesium and no phosphorus and no potassium and and then you add salt to the people's diet, and the salt has to be washed away, and it sucks all the other minerals out of the body when they're taking in a high salt diet. So it's the combination between sugar, salt, and oil that has profound damaging effects in our population. And so so obviously, if you're taking so many calories from oil instead of eating the whole food, and beans and greens are very high in calcium. And there was a study came out of England that showed that vegans had higher risk of hip fractures and bone fractures compared to meat eaters. And we analyzed the diets of those British vegans, and they were eating a starch-based diet with lots of bread and potato, and their calcium levels and protein levels were half the amount compared to a nutritarian diet. Their calcium levels were too low, and their protein levels were too low. And when you feed them more beans and vegetables and nuts, then their calcium getting high and the protein goes high, and they don't have hip fractures.
Exciting. I'm really excited what's going to happen in the next few weeks as I follow this plan, and with no oil. I'm definitely going to be checking out your website with the recipes. And what else do you have on your website? I've seen your Eat to Live retreat. Would you like to tell us more about that? That sounds absolutely fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I've been in medical practice more than 3 decades, taking care of people, and I get so much pleasure in helping people reverse their medical conditions. People with heart problems don't need, get out of the hospital. Don't do the angioplasty. Come here. We'll reverse it. We'll get you off the blood pressure medication. Get rid of your diabetes. But so many people, they know how they should eat, and they know they should eat healthier, but they don't seem to be able to do it in their own home environment to get started. And you need that period of abstinence and get your taste buds retrained to love eating this way and learn the recipes. And we have a whole program here where people can jumpstart their program. And the minimum stay, though, is 30 days. People come in for at least 1 month, from 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months. Some people have stayed 4 months or so, but most people stay a couple of 2 months or so. And they lose a lot of weight. They may drop 50 pounds, but then they have the skill now to be able to go home and enjoy this and continue it and continue dropping the weight if they need to. So it sets them up to a whole new way of looking about food and taking care of their health in their life. Because, people go away to these health retreats or these health farms or these fat farms, and they go away for a week or two and they lose weight, they eat healthy for a week, and they go back and they can't sustain it. They go back to their old diet and they gain the weight back. So we set this up here, this beautiful place where people can come, and so when they stay long enough, so they're like renting a room for 2 or 3 months. And the time they go home, they know how to cook. They have the emotional, have the personality and emotional intelligence now to deal with their problems and not use food as a stress reliever. And they know how to make food taste great, and they're no longer addicted to those foods. And they really have the skills to really enjoy eating this way. So I think it's a really, beautiful place. I'm here at the retreat now, but
wow, amazing.
But I could show you the back of the retreat where we have right near the beautiful mountains and pools and volleyball court and packed. Here if you want to see, we have people eating breakfast here. You can see we have.
Oh, that's incredible.
People eating breakfast here, and then you can see out the back window. You can see the swimming pool out there.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah,
you obviously have some emphasis on exercise as well, then.
Yeah, we have a lot of great. We have a great exercise trainer. We have water aerobics and all types of great hiking trails in the woods. Park right next door with mountain trails and streams and waterfalls. It's really beautiful here.
And then for those people who are not fortunate enough to attend your retreat, what other resources are you offering on your website for anyone who wants to?
Yeah, that's right. Retreat is relatively, in smaller numbers. Most people join the website where I can communicate with them. They ask the doctor for them and give them guidance. And I have a staff of food addiction counselors that work with people who have food addiction if they need extra personal help. But on the website, we have a member center where people can get recipes, menu plans, all types of supportive services, communication with other people, and if necessary, communication with my staff and myself to help guide them on their, in their future health challenges.
Hopefully I'll be sending you some before and after pictures soon as well, maybe in 6 weeks, hopefully. So a couple of quick questions. What's the book that changed your life?
I guess it was a book by Jack Duntrop called You Don't Have to Be Sick. It was written in the 1950s, and Jack Duntrop was a television producer who produced the series Hopalong Cassidy and The Lone Ranger, I think. So he was here in Hollywood, and he wrote a book, You Don't Have to Be Sick, and it was one of the first books on health I read, which wasn't that complicated a book, but it made sense to me that people, and I was a teenager at the time, obviously, and people impressed on me the idea that people are ill because they've eaten and lived in a manner to earn disease, and disease is not luck, it's not predominant, it's not genetics, and we can control our health destiny. It gave me this idea that we are in control and we don't just have something happen to us, so, and I think that, I've gotten tremendous amount of pleasure and personal reward, satisfaction from using these same principles I learned when I was young to, even though the science has advanced and we've modified our advice, the same basic principle is we're not designed to get sick. We're designed to stay healthy and well our whole lives if we live within, if we supply us with the right raw material.
Sounds very empowering. Another question, which phrase or affirmation or quote do you live by?
I'm not sure of the phrase or affirmation or quote, but I always teach people this concept of what makes people happy. And the idea that, very contrary to the modern world where people are like competing with each other, the countries are competing, people are competing, they're trying to be better than other people. And the whole idea that what I've learned from what I've read is that our ultimate happiness is having goodwill for other people, having compassion, and trying to love people and love the world and the beauty in the world around us and appreciate things in the world around us. So contribute to the beauty in the world around us and have more care and compassion for people of all different types and appreciate what the power and the beauty in all people. So we're talking here about the idea that instead of trying to look for things to be agitated, annoyed with, and feel, looking for things to be negative, we have to look for things to be positive about. And the more we do that, the more we can relate, and our happiness is based on how much we care and feel for others. It helps us feel better about ourselves too.
Fantastic. So where can people find you?
The best place is at drfurhman.com, which and they can see more recent works that are they can read a lot, see videos. It's drfurhman.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Orgasmic Lifestyle podcast. It's been a pleasure and I've learned a lot, and I'm very inspired to continue on my journey.
Thank you. So happy you're taking great care of your health.
Oh yeah, I'm really excited because I had an assessment at the gym and they said I was 30% body fat, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm a kind of a skinny fat person.
Yes, you should be low. Ideally for a woman should be below 25% body fat. For a man, they should be below 15% body fat.
I'm going to spin cycle in an hour, so
you're not that far off. You just got a little bit. You just got to drop 10 pounds.
So how long will it take me?
2 pounds a week, 1 kilogram a week. So it shouldn't take you more than 6 weeks.
Okay, hopefully. Well, okay. I'll send you a before and after picture, and hopefully I'll be another one of your success stories. Okay, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye.
The book I'm reading now is Open Her by Karen Brody. And the tagline is, activate 7 masculine powers to arouse your woman's love and desire. Karen Brody is a man coach, and I'm reading this book because she has kindly agreed to an interview with me on this podcast, and that'll be coming soon. And we'll be talking about everything that she discusses about relationships and masculinity, which is a very interesting topic. So I don't think I was actually the target reader for this book. It's definitely written for men who want to connect more with women. And despite that, I actually really, really enjoyed this book. And it made me really crave masculine energy. I'm at a stage of my life now where I've just ended a relationship. It's quite hard because I'm not into dating apps or anything like that. So I'm really craving masculine energy, and it's something I'm desiring a lot. So reading this book made me think about how much I do want that right now in my life. And she just talked about 7 masculine powers, and more specifically she talks about 7 masculine archetypes, and let me read them to you. There is the artist, the poet, the director, the warrior, the sage, the dark knight, the lover. Very interesting. So I guess most men could fall into the category of one of those archetypes, or some men could be a combination of more than one. And each chapter opens up with a situation that she was in with a man who was one of these archetypes. And I really enjoyed that part. It was almost like reading a novel or a memoir, and that's the part that I enjoyed the most. And there were some archetypes that did appeal to me more than others. For example, the artist, a man who can really see you, and another one, the dark knight, not so much. Maybe bad boys could fall into that categories, and maybe I've had a few of those in my life, and the passion can be fantastic, but I do find they can be about quite tiring as well, that whole situation. So that's not something I'm looking for now, even though I can appreciate that energy for sure. So I did enjoy how every chapter opened up with a real life situation with a man who was one of those archetypes. And I think the whole topic of gender is a real hot topic at the moment. There are many reasons why, and I can understand maybe the need for a man coach. I think along the way, there's, women have been becoming more powerful, rightly so, which I totally describe myself and define myself as a feminist. We understand that men are maybe asking themselves, where do I fit into this new world now? And also with the Me Too movement, I think there's a lot of doubt about what you can do and what you can't do in terms of seduction, etc. And where is the line of expressing an interest in someone and harassment? There's lots of topics around that at the moment. But the book doesn't talk about anything like that. It's more about authenticity and connecting with looking at your strong points and your weak points within each archetype, and how to use your archetype to your advantage when you are trying to connect with a woman, hence the name Open Her. And let me read something from the blurb at the back. What man doesn't fantasize about having the secret keys and passcodes to unlock a woman's desire for him? The truth is, you don't have to fantasize. You already have everything you need within you to unleash your woman's desire. The problem is, you think it's too hard, too mysterious, or just not you. But what if getting what you want is simply a matter of tapping into what's already within you, and is the only real missing link between you and a passionate, satisfying relationship? Interesting. And it says Karen Brody, an expert guide for men in relationships who has helped thousands of men successfully engage women, will teach you how to fire up and leverage your masculinity and masculine gifts to give your woman the aspects of you she secretly craves. I absolutely love this book. So I would recommend it to anyone who wants to connect with a woman or reconnect with the woman in their lives. Now it's time to slow things down as we prepare for this episode's guided affirmations meditation. It's probably not a good idea to listen to this while driving or operating machinery. Instead, take a break from whatever you're doing, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and enjoy. I am healthy. I am strong. I am grateful for my good health. I am grateful to be alive. I have healthy habits. I deserve to feel good every day. I am healthy. I am strong. I am calm. I take care of myself. My immune system is resilient. I deserve to feel good every day. I am healthy. I am strong. I overcome illness quickly and efficiently. I get enough replenishing sleep every night. I rest when I need to. I deserve to feel good every day. I am healthy. I am strong. I lead a healthy lifestyle. I eat delicious, nutrient-dense food. I do my best to maintain my health. I deserve to feel good every day. I am strong. I seek medical attention when I need it. I have regular checkups to monitor my health. My good health benefits me and those around me. I deserve to feel good every day. I am healthy. I am strong. I exercise regularly. I manage my stress efficiently. I take a break when I need to. I deserve to feel good every day. I am healthy. I am strong. I treat my body with love and respect. My health is important. My good health is a priority. I deserve to feel good every day. I am healthy. I am strong. I am open to new ways that I can improve my health. I am surrounded by people who support my good health. I make healthy choices. I deserve to feel good every day. To find out more about me and my orgasmic lifestyle, visit venusohara.org or follow me on Instagram at instagram.com/venusohara. Make sure to search for the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks for listening, have an orgasmic week, and make sure every day is a climax.